Hello, I'm Roxy Eloise, and yesterday I had a podcast interview, and in today's video I am going to be showing you a few of the highlights because the interview was over an hour long, and in case you don't have that long to listen to an hour-long podcast, I thought I would put together a little highlights reel for you.
I just came to say, I hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late. I just came to say, I hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late.
Well, that's north to where I am, so I guess it all counts as north. So yeah, I'm like down there, down south, but I get asked a lot when I used to, in my old job, I used to get asked if I was from Australia all the time. I used to meet new clients all the time, and they used to ask me if I was from Australia. No, really, I'm from like Hertfordshire. My parents were born and raised in Tottenham, and I went to school in Hertfordshire, so my accent gets picked up a lot because I'm like a merge between slightly Cockney, slightly London, and then I have a slightly posher edge to it. So I'm not quite Cockney from London, but because I'm a mixture of the two. So you're not the first to ask about my mainly through Twitter. My following on Twitter is a lot bigger, and I find the writing community on Twitter is a lot more engaging. They actually talk to you a lot more, whereas Instagram, because it's like visual, I find the engagement a lot lower on Instagram. So I've got a lot less following on there. It's nice to look at people's profiles, and the like button is, as far as engagement goes, is not actually real engagement. And Goodreads is the other one that I met a lot of my writer friends, but once you meet them through Goodreads, they'll give you your handle to Twitter or Instagram. So Twitter is my biggest way of meeting my online friends. Most of them, I'd say, is through Twitter. For a writer, what are they called? The forums for Goodreads. I found a lot of my writer help and advice, my early advice, I got from Goodreads through the forums. So yeah, a must have for newbie writers that are looking for beta readers, or they just want to get their blurb, an opinion on their blurb, or anything like that. Goodreads is the place to go. You're not going to find it if you're new on Twitter and Instagram. You're not going to find that type of help on them two platforms. If you're new, the Goodreads is where you start out. Mine is mildly fantasy. It's dystopian, and that is one that I don't come across very often. My writer friends that write dystopian, that's I seem to be on my own a little bit for dystopian, but it's got a touch of magical realism in it, so that's where the fantasy element comes from. But there's no like elves or giants or dragons or anything like that. It's not fantasy as such. It's just very realistic as I could make it, based on real life, and the characters do refer back to our world, our life, and us. So it's just 100 years in the future, and as realistic as I could make it, with like a touch of magic. And the setting that I wanted my world to be in, it was naturally dystopian, and my book came from a dream that I had. I originally started writing non-fiction, and this was after finding the confidence and realizing that authors were not born knowing how to write, because that's what I believed. I thought they knew that they could write the book, and when I was 28, I got given a book, and the book made me realize that these authors, they're not born knowing that they can do it, and they learned to do it. So at 28 years old, I finally had the confidence to begin writing my book. I really wanted to be a writer, and I knew it in the back of my mind it was fiction that I wanted to be writing, but I started off writing non-fiction. because I didn't have the story. But as I was writing the non-fiction, in the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to be writing, and but I just didn't have the story. And I had a dream. I woke up in the morning. It was so powerful. I was like, wow, this is my story. This is what I've been waiting for. So the setting, the protagonist and the antagonist, they all come from my dream. So why did I start writing dystopian? Is because my dream, the setting in my dream, it was dystopian. So it couldn't have been any other genre. It just came naturally. So my dream was me. I was placed in an institute, the setting for my book, and everybody seemed to know what they was doing, but obviously I was me in my dream, and I was just plonked in the center of this setting, and these characters were all acting in a certain way, and the antagonist walks into my setting, and everybody, they all react the exact same way, and somebody realizes that I'm not acting the same as everybody else, and he says, you need to get into character, like you need to snap into it, because if he sees that you're different, he'll know that what he uses doesn't work on you, and so you need to act. And so my dream was me trying to pick up cues from everybody else and get into what they were doing, and at some point the antagonist would be in my face where he's detected something and he's literally there staring at me, and I'm just trying to still remain in character, and whatever I did convinced him, and then he went away from me. So that was basically my dream, was somebody not quite acting like they should, and it would have been like life-threatening if they got detected. Yeah, it was really scary to be in the dream. I woke up and I was like, wow. I had to tell somebody about it, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the title from my book, the Guidal, not the Discovering Puracordis, but the Guidal, come from my dream. That's the name that was repeated at me again and again and again, and I woke up in the morning, I was like, it just stuck with me, the name, and I was like, wow, the Guidal. So even the title, I was asking for it. I was writing my non-fiction, and I just knew it was not what I wanted to be doing, and I was basically just willing this story to come to me. Just please, I really want to write fiction, but I just didn't have the story. And then when I had the dream, I just knew it. I was just like, that's it, that's exactly what I want. And then that different aspects I put into my book. So it's there's a huge amount of the book that actually wasn't the dream. It all just come as my characters kind of took a life of their own, and they created a lot of where I thought the book was ending. When I originally plotted and I had the dream and I spent about a week plotting, I had an ending, but it never ended that way. The characters ended my book their own way. So it's a bit 50-50. I didn't want to be influenced or swayed. I realize now that is what a lot of people do. I didn't realize that's actually a technique that you're taught, that if you're going to start writing in a chosen genre, you should pick up the books and start reading. But I didn't know that when I started writing. I didn't have the confidence my whole life to write a book, but I knew I wanted to. I was taking you back way back in secondary school. I thought I wanted to be a writer, and I used my English teacher to validate myself and for her to tell me if I was born to write or not, because for some reason I thought they had superpowers, and I thought that they knew when they were born that they could do it, but that wasn't me. So I used my English teacher to tell me. So when I had an assignment and it was writing a short story of my choice, I absolutely loved the whole process, and I gave it into marking, but there was one sentence in there that I was so impressed with, and I thought, okay, this is the sentence. If I'm born to do this, this is the sentence. This is going to tell me that I'm born to do this. And I took it back off of her, and she had noticed my sentence, and she told me it was unrealistic, and that was it. I closed my notebook and I thought, that's it, I'm not born to write. So for 15 years I never believed I could do it, and this is where I get imposter syndrome, because for 15 years I couldn't pick up another book because I could not pick up another fiction book. I was reading a lot of non-fiction, but I could not pick up another fiction book, because when I did, I would feel so sad that I was not born to do this, and this is what I've always wanted to do. And I validated myself off of an English teacher. So 15 years later, my friend gives me a non-fiction book, and it was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, I think you pronounce her name. And in her book, she explains how to, if writing a book is what you want to do, then break it down chapter by chapter. And that's what I did. I thought, okay, then she's told me I can do it, I'm going to do it. I started doing non-fiction, as I said, and then when I got my book idea, I started to plot my chapter by chapter, just like Jen said too in her book. And so no, I did not pick up a book and learn the genre like I should have. I didn't do that. I was in awe of the story that the authors created, and not the reading experience. I was so engrossed in how the author made me feel what they made me feel, and I was obsessed with story making and story writing. And I thought, I don't know how they've done this, and they obviously knew that they were born to do it, and they had these superpowers which gave them this ability to do it, and I'm not one of them. But I was so silly to think that my English teacher was the one to tell me that if I could do it or not. And it took me so many years to realise that they learned to do it. They were not born to do it. I wish it didn't take me so long. And I envy the writers who are 17, 20 years old and they're already in their writing careers, already writing there. Because they've got the belief that I never had. I never had that belief until I was 28. Oh no. I've changed my mindset now since the Jen Sincero book. I'm very deliberate in my thoughts now, and I don't let myself think them thoughts anymore. They used to control me, but now I do not entertain the negativity and the negative thoughts that kept me behind and held me back for so many years. So I don't allow myself. If I feel myself going down that path, I usually have to play a game or something. I can't write. I cannot. If I'm going through that, if I'm in that state of mind, there's no way I'm picking up my book, and I'll distract myself. Get out of that. It is tyrannical government, and it is an oppressed society, but it's dressed up to be normal. They don't really know that they're in an oppressed society, and there's a lot of injustices that not many people see. Is just life to them. But there's a few individuals in the story that do pick up on the injustices. The setting is it's in the UK, but as in there was a decline and it needed to be rebuilt. So the whole of the UK is rebuilt and renamed. It's the city is now, the country is now Venair. It's not the UK, and there's 6 cities around the main city, but it is all UK. And obviously I've said that the dollar, the pound and the euro no longer exist, and they use worths, what they call worths, which is basically time. So they will work an hour of their life, and depending after they graduated, depending on what category they got placed in, it will determine how much they get per hour for the rest of their lives. They cannot change bandings. So they will graduate from school, they'll get put in, depending on how well indoctrinated they are, is what one of the characters call it. they'll get placed in one of 4 bands, and you'll either have 1 worth per hour that you work or 4 worths per hour that you work. So there's your classes there as well. So you've got the rich and the working class. So there's an injustice there. It's not fair, but it's very normal and portrayed as very normal. And anyone that's raised in the institute, any orphans there is like at a disadvantage at life in the beginning of their life, so they're orphans or they just can't be looked after by their parents, they are raised in the institute by the ruler is Sior Borgen Boulderfell, and he adopts all these children in his institute to then protect him. So they're raised as like bodyguards and protectors, and they're instantly put on the highest banding as well. So there is an injustice between. There's a lot of things that are unfair about the world, but it's deemed as normal. Nobody realizes that it's an injustice. I didn't do the best in school. I did average, and I know I could. My potential is so much more. Schooling did not do me well. I don't find I didn't fit in very well in school. I wasn't really ready to grow up as such. Where my friends were moving on and getting into like fashion and what music was in the charts, I wasn't there when I was growing up. I was still stuck in my imagination and creating stories and wanting to play. So I didn't really enjoy school so much. It was something I couldn't wait to get out of, and I would never go back. A lot of people say they enjoy school and it was the best time of their lives, like the best days in their life, and that they would go back. For me, it was not a very nice place, and I wouldn't go back. Yeah. You know, in saying that, when I moved into college, that's when I really enjoyed education and learning. So school education, didn't enjoy it, but I did multimedia. It wasn't even a subject. I was kind of interested in it, but not passionate about it. And I passed with like the highest grade that you could get, just because I was determined to show that I could do it and I was capable of achieving a good grade. Because in school, I missed so much school. I always felt like I was catching up. So when I got a second chance in college to start afresh and do my best, I did my best and come out with like the highest grade. So I do like education and learning, but not the environment of school. I started off writing from a different person's point of view. I started writing third person and from a different main character. The main character now was not the main character in the start. I wrote the first chapter. It was in third person from following a male character, and it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And so I rewrote the whole chapter again from first person from the main character, who is Aurora, and that's what felt natural to me. It was trial and error. It didn't feel right the first time. The tropes, they kind of just come naturally. As I say, like the characters, I gave them personalities, but I'd feel their personality depending on where I wanted them to fit in the story. I would feel their personality, and then I would name them from their personality, and I would think that their personality was a certain way. Only when they would appear in a scene would they then show me their real personality, and they would lead the story themselves. The tropes kind of came themselves. Brendan, one of the characters, when I created him, I thought he was really timid and shy. He actually is in the first chapter. Brendan, he arrives in the first chapter, but when he would come into a scene, I felt he was not so timid. He was really confident. He knew he was in the popular crowd, and he was a little bit more confident. He's embarrassed easily, I could feel that, but he was not shy. So he led his own story, and he arrives in the second book a lot more, and his story he created himself because he was never meant to be that character. His personality come out of it. Yeah, there's more to do with the love triangle, but I'm afraid it's a spoiler. So I want to say it, but I really think it's a spoiler, so I can't. But I did tweet, and I said to basically hint I said in my tweet that my main character is falling in love again and she's not supposed to. How do I control her? So that's the hint towards what. Did you really? What? Yeah, because that was genuinely happening to me, and I was from the comments that I was getting, they were saying, let her be, let her choose. And I did, and I'm so pleased that I did. So what I wanted is not what's happened. She chose, the character chose. And oh my God, it's made it 10 times better than it ever could have been. So as a writer, if your characters are trying to lead you places, the best advice I've received is let them take you. Because the ending of my first book wouldn't be, if I forced it, it would be an unnatural ending, and it wouldn't be how it ends in my book currently. And then, because it's a series, the end, if I had have forced it like I was trying to, and didn't listen to like the comments in Twitter, then I wouldn't have the ending that I've got now. And it is... if somebody said to me, sit down and write this book again and do it again, write the Guidal again, I would tell them I can't, because a lot of what is in there, the characters created themselves and came to me themselves. Or if I'm drifting off to sleep, it would just like a ping moment, and I'd think, oh my God, that's brilliant. And I'd have to quickly get up, write it down on a notebook, and then go back to sleep. I could not rewrite a new, like the Guidal, rewrite it. Obviously, if I had to write the exact same, I know where it's gone now, so I could copy it. But if it was like a brand new sit down and write it, I couldn't, because I feel like I didn't write it as such. It got given to me through my characters. They created the story. So please, nobody ask me. I got a lot of comments telling me to do that. Kill her off. They were saying kill the Yeah, no, it's not out yet. It is due for release on the 2nd of April this year, so very soon. The pre-orders will be available on Amazon shortly, and signed pre-orders are available on my website now. That is at roxyeloise.com. My Twitter handle, if you wanted to contact me, because I'm very active on Twitter and that's where I like to talk to all my friends. You can find me on RoxyEloise_. So that's my website and my Twitter, and the book is out 2nd of April. I think law of attraction is something that I was introduced to back when I was in my around 28, and I didn't know anything about it before, and so then I used that. That's why I control my thoughts a lot. So now I've got my book idea from a dream, I'm actually starting to believe in it a lot more. So I think just change your belief on how things come to you, and it will change your life, because it completely changed my life. I didn't believe in it before, and then I got introduced to it, and then my book come to me in a dream. So I have no choice but to believe in it. It changed my life.